this is Eric Thompson. I am president and lead advisor with Peerless Wealth. We are an SEC registered investment advisor located in Columbus, Ohio. As always, thank you for joining. The title of this video is The Arithmetic of Loss: Why Avoiding Big Losses Could Be More Important Than Participating in Big Gains. My job as an advisor is really to create sustainable portfolios for clients. And what I mean by sustainable is ones that they can stick with and that are not perfectly predictable, but aren't so crazy volatile that it's going to make clients nervous when they're down, open it up to big losses. And we don't want portfolios that cause panic for clients. Most clients understand that in order to get competitive long-term rates of return that are higher than things like certificates of deposits at banks and savings accounts at banks, we need to take some risk. My job is to minimize that risk and still get some competitive returns. Most investors that are sort of left to their own devices and their own knowledge base, and more importantly, their sort of emotional fortitude for panic and gain and that sort of thing, most will either invest too conservatively or too aggressively. They want to shoot for the fences and they'll buy, they'll buy some hot stock or crypto or something like that, and then it'll crash, and then they'll never invest again, and then they'll go super conservative and settle for 3 or 4% in banks. In reality, both those are flawed, and we just need to own a quality portfolio that's somewhere in the middle. And I have one of my favorite illustrations that I'm going to pull up for you. And it's titled, I titled it anyway, Risk Redefined. And the top half of this illustration lists 4 hypothetical portfolios: portfolio A, B, C, and D. And again, this is hypothetical. And it goes through 5 years of a potential rate of return scenario. And I'll go all the way to the right under portfolio D, because that's the easiest. That one just makes 3% a year, every year. Super conservative, no big years, but no down years. And the average of 3% every year for 5 years is 3%, very easy to understand. Let's go all the way to the left now, portfolio A. So this would be an example of a very aggressive portfolio, where the first year it came out of the gate strong, it made 50% gains. Then it had 3 more really good years, 14%, 14%, 14%. And the last year you were down big, you were down 50%. Now, if I average those 5 numbers, I get 8.4%. And the other 2 portfolios are kind of in between the two. Portfolio B, a little less aggressive than portfolio A. The average return there is 7.6. Big years are a little not quite as big. Small down years aren't quite as bad as portfolio A. Portfolio C takes it one more notch conservative. Not as big gains, not as bad losses, and we have an average return of 7.4% a year. So then, if I were to ask you hypothetically, let's say I could promise you these outcomes over the next 5 years. You can pick one of these and you'd be guaranteed to get the exact outcome that it shows here. If I could do that, which I can't, what portfolio would you choose? I'll let you think about it for a second. Most people would say, well, gosh, Eric, if you can promise me portfolio A, that's 8.4% average, so I'm gonna go ahead and pick portfolio A. And I'm gonna be honest, I probably would have picked that too, up until about 5 years ago when I did this math on my own. So let's see how it actually turns out. Now I'm gonna open up the bottom portion of this illustration. And let's again go through, we'll start at the far right, portfolio D. That one's very easy. Now this is $1 million hypothetically, so we're gonna put $1 million in each portfolio. So portfolio D, 3%, we get it to $1,030,000 after year 1. Compound interest on that, it slowly climbs. We get it to $1.159 million. At the end of year 5, we've made $159,000. Now let's go all the way to the left under Portfolio A. End of year one, we make 50% on our money. Our $1 million goes to $1.5 million. We're feeling great. Then we make 14% each additional year. End of year four, we get it all the way to $2.222 million. We're feeling really good. End of year five, we lose 50%, all the way back down to 1.11 million. We're actually behind Portfolio D that got 3% a year. Even though we had an arithmetically better average with Portfolio A, that simple arithmetic does not account for actually how money compounds and how it decompounds. And so we actually have to go through the second half of this exercise like I am. So this surprises a lot of people. It surprised me actually when I first started crunching the numbers. Portfolio B and C, that's where I live. That's where my clients, that's where I tell my clients to invest. Those type of expectations, sure, we'll get a down year every now and then, very unlikely to be 50%, but we'll get down years, and we'll have an average of somewhere between 7 and 8%. And you can see there, those were the best actual outcome. We made $333,000 on Portfolio B, and we made $359,000 on Portfolio C. So the other way to think about this is if you have $1 million and you lose 50%. Oh, and by the way, I could have arranged the return scenarios. I could have put them in any order I wanted. So Portfolio A could have had a down year of negative 50% the first year and a plus 50% the last year. We would have got the same 8.4% average. We would have got the same result of only making $111,000. So I'm not playing trickery with the sequence of returns. It's simply that a highly volatile portfolio can get clobbered and not come back the way you think it could. The other example that might be a little easier to grasp, if you had $1 million and you lose 50% of that, you're at $500,000. And without thinking real hard, you might say, okay, well, if I make 50% the next year, I'm just back up to even. But you're not, because 50% of 500,000, where your portfolio is at now, is only 250,000. So your 500 makes 50% the second year after losing 50% the first year, it's only back to 750 because you're going off a much lower base. So it takes a long time to come back. So the key sort of thing to take from this is we want to avoid big losses. How do we do that? Own quality, diversify, get some advice. Hope you learned something. That's all for now, and see you next time.